Number 1. I'm a female and was 12 when this all started, and I lived in a very calm part of my estate in Ireland. My mom is involved too, but not as much as I am. So, on to the story. It was 12 a.m. and had just turned Christmas Day when we got a knock on our door. I was taught not to open the door to strangers, especially when it's 12 a.m., so I just ignored it and hoped that whoever it was would go away. About 3 minutes later, I heard another knock, but this time it was like a huge bang at the door. I was terrified and didn't know what to do, so by instinct I went and got my mom to answer. When she answered, this drunk Romanian guy who had a very scruffy beard and was wearing a white hoodie was just standing there and asked,
"Can I walk your dog? I have my dog with me, so she'll be fine."
And my mom, of course, said no. I was a bit away from the door, but that's all I heard him say. My mom kept politely asking for him to go away, and when she had enough, she closed the door. The next morning, I was sitting having my breakfast, and my mom brings up the incident to my dad. So me being me, I started eavesdropping and took off one of my headphones. I was really scared because that's the guy who stalks me in the bushes while walking Molly, our dog. When she said that, my heart sank so deep into my chest that it started to hurt. So you'd think that's the end of it. No, it wasn't. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm home alone watching TV upstairs in my room when I just had this sudden urge to look outside my window, and let me tell you, I was terrified. The same man was standing in my empty driveway looking up into my bedroom. I got so freaked out and without hesitation immediately closed my curtains over. No more than 10 seconds later, there was a huge bang at my front door, and I hear the handle being played with. I was paralyzed. When he finally stopped with the door handle, I heard the windows downstairs shatter into shards, and I heard him climb in. I sprinted into my bathroom and locked the door behind me, bringing my phone with me. I hear really fast thumps go up the stairs and hear my bedroom door open, and once he realizes I'm not there, he immediately goes for the bathroom door handle. He starts trying to kick the door down and was screaming that he would rape and kill me.
Rape you!
I called 999, and within 5 minutes I hear,
"Put your hands up, do it now."
I was so terrified that it took me almost 30 minutes to get out of the bathroom. The officer told me that he had a backpack, and in there they found dildos, condoms, a rope, a gag, bleach, and a meat cleaver. Also, I want to add that if the officers had arrived 5 minutes later, I don't know what would have happened to me, as within 5 kicks, he would have kicked the door down. I don't want to know what would have happened to me if he did get in. This was a truly horrifying experience. Number 2. A while back, I wanted to get back into the job market after being self-employed for a couple of years. I'm a female and in my late 20s, specializing in journalism and media in a time when magazines are shutting down. Safe to say that the usual question for each interview involved trying to find out if I plan on having kids, but obviously not outright asking, because that is illegal, although one person actually did. Anyway, I was having a hard time finding anything that wasn't going to take me back to junior level and feeling pretty bummed out. I started to look for jobs away from the major sites and more in the classified sections, Craigslist, mostly just to see what's out there. One day, I spotted an ad for a social media manager, digital marketeer, for a company that looked interesting. Something to do with building props for theater and movie productions. I can do this, I said, and put together a professional proposal and sent off my CV. got a return email pretty quick, and the guy sounded pretty gruff, but assertive. I tried to give him a call, but he wouldn't answer the phone. On email, he was all fine, asking about my credentials. We arranged for a meeting at the warehouse office. On the day, I printed out my proposal, jumped in an Uber, and headed out to the address on his email signature. It was businessy looking, no reason to suspect anything at this point. We start heading out into the super industrial side of town. Again, no big deal. I assume this is because of the warehouse to store the props. I get dropped off at this decrepit-looking warehouse at the end of a street. I told the cab not to wait, but seriously regretted it afterwards. The place was empty, and I wanted to walk around the back to see if anyone was there, but the hairs on the back of my neck were up, and I just didn't feel like it was a wise thing to do. I stood out front with my laptop and my proposal. The time to meet went past 5 minutes. I texted the guy. No response. 20 minutes, I text to no reply. I tried to call multiple times. Then I finally get a text saying,
"Hey, where are you?"
"I'm here, at the address on your email signature."
"Oh, we've moved. I'm in a meeting now, but I'll send one of my boys to come pick you up."
At this point, I should have been more freaked out that he was sending a random guy to pick me up, but at the time, I was more concerned with how unprofessional this guy was. Call it desperation or rose-colored glasses. I agreed to wait for the guy, but my senses kicked in right after I hung up. What the hell was I doing? Waiting to get picked up by a random guy to get taken for a meeting at a new location. So odd and bizarre. At this point, I should say that I did ask for a coffee meeting somewhere, but I remember he said he was super busy on a campaign, and anyway, he said I needed to see the warehouse. After a minute, I text him and say, "I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable getting into a strange car. Let me know when you're free to reschedule a meeting somewhere between both of us." I go home and relay the story to my husband. Hours later, I get a series of texts that are so incredibly bizarre. I'll retell them as they came through.
CuriousNeon, I am very disappointed that you didn't turn up for our meeting today, and I expected you to be more professional. Good luck with your career.
From me, because I take pride on being professional, I turned up to the address listed for your business and on your signature. I was on time. I tried to contact you multiple times after you didn't turn up. I imagine many women would feel uncomfortable getting into a stranger's car. Minutes go by.
I was happy to give you a chance and you blew it. You're going to need all the luck in the world.
I was like, why am I in this bizarre abusive text chain with a potential employer that wouldn't meet me or talk on the phone? So I give up even trying to reason with him. An hour later or so, I, no joke, get a text saying,
By the way, part of your job was to change the email signature to the new address.
So, weird potential boss who may or may not have been trying to lure women into creepy warehouses with the promise of an illustrious social media job. Let's not meet. Number 3. So luckily, this story doesn't involve me being chased, almost kidnapped, stalked, etc., but it is one of the strangest things that has ever happened to me. I think about whatever happened from time to time, and sometimes I feel as though maybe I was overreacting, but then I remember how I felt, like my stomach was in my throat and my heart was going to burst out of my chest, and I know that my fear was justified. I never told my parents or the parents of the kids I was babysitting, which, looking back, was probably really stupid. This happened when I was about 14. I had just started babysitting for this family in my neighborhood. They had 2 kids, a boy, who at the time was 10, and a girl, who at the time was 8. They were great kids to babysit. They got along with each other without fighting and always did what I asked of them without complaining. Before I launch into what happened, I'm going to give you some background information about this family's house so that you can understand why I was so freaked out. The house is situated pretty far back in my neighborhood on this little side street off the main road that runs through the neighborhood. The house is in a cul-de-sac, so there's not a lot of traffic on this road at all. Usually, the only people that ever come into the cul-de-sac are the mailman and people who lived in the other 3 houses that were in the cul-de-sac. The street itself was not very long at all, so there were only 3 houses on each side of the street that weren't in the cul-de-sac. Essentially, despite being in a large neighborhood, the street that this house was situated on was very quiet, and if you didn't live in the neighborhood, you might not even know that this street existed. It was a fall Friday night, pretty sure it was late November, right after Thanksgiving, and I arrived at the house around 6 p.m. The kids were already sitting down eating dinner when I got there, and the parents told me that they expected to be home around midnight or so. The parents also made a joke about how the kids had the whole street to themselves, since the other families that lived there were out of town for Thanksgiving. The parents left, the kids finished eating, and we went outside to play in the cul-de-sac. I remember locking the front door and taking the house key outside with me. The kids rode around on their scooters for about an hour. For some reason, I just felt really on edge while the kids were playing outside. I chalked this feeling up to knowing that we were alone on the street since everyone else was out of town. After the kids finished playing outside, we went inside to play Wii in the basement. I remember locking the front door once we were back inside and putting the key on the kitchen counter. I then checked the front door again before I went downstairs to the basement. I was super vigilant about checking the doors because I had watched so many scary movies where the babysitter forgets to lock the door and then some crazy murderer gets into the house and blah blah blah. As the kids are playing in the basement, I get that unsettling feeling again. I didn't feel like we were being watched. It was more like when you know that something is going to pop out in a scary movie and you're just anticipating it on the edge of your seat. The feeling sticks with me the entire time that we're in the basement, but again, I chalk it up to knowing that the entire street is empty. The clock strikes 10 and it's time for the kids to head to bed. We go to the top floor of the house where the kids' bedrooms are. The house is set up so that when you open the front door of the house and come inside, you're standing in the foyer with the stairs to go up to the top floor directly in front of you. If you're standing in the foyer, you can see all the way up the stairs into the bathroom on the top floor. So the kids are in the bathroom brushing their teeth, and we all hear a car pull into their driveway. I figure that it's their parents coming home super early, and I expect to hear the garage door start opening, but that sound never comes. I walk into the girl's bedroom and look out her front window. There's a car running in the driveway, and there's a man in the car, but the headlights are turned off despite it being 10 p.m. and pitch black dark outside. I figured it was someone who got lost in our neighborhood and was just using the driveway to stop and get their bearings before heading back out on the road. I leave the girl's bedroom and head back into the bathroom where the kids are. Suddenly, I hear a knock on the front door. I turn around, and there's a man standing at their door holding a pizza box. There are 2 long windows on either side of their front door, so I have a clear view of this guy, and I know that he has a clear view of us. I immediately get that eerie feeling that I had been feeling all night. I asked both the kids if they ordered a pizza for some reason, and they both said no. These kids are always very honest and wouldn't lie about something like that, or even order a pizza without asking me, so I knew they were being truthful. Normally, I would have gone downstairs to see what this guy wanted. Maybe he had the wrong house and I could point him in the right direction. But that little voice in my head was screaming, "Do not go downstairs. Do not open the door." The guy also didn't look like he worked for any pizza company. Normally, they would be wearing a uniform or a hat with the company logo on it or something. This guy just seemed off. He looked like he was in his late 30s, early 40s, and looked super disheveled. His shirt was really wrinkled, his pants were filthy and ripped, and he had this ratty black baseball cap that was pulled down super far so that his eyes were covered. He was also grinning really aggressively, like I thought this guy's teeth would just shatter because of how hard he was pressing them together. At this point, the kids notice him and start asking why he's here, should we open the door, etc., etc. I tell them no and ask that they just go to their rooms and lie down. The boy goes to his room and I walk the girl into her room and look out the window at the car again. I notice that the car doesn't have one of those pizza delivery signs on top, which all of the pizza companies in our town required delivery drivers to have. So now I really feel confident in my initial intuition that this guy isn't a legit pizza delivery guy. The girl gets in bed and I come back out of her room and sit down at the top of the stairs so that I can keep an eye on this guy. I tried to stay really calm so as not to upset the kids, even though I was flipping out on the inside. He's still standing at the door holding the pizza box in one hand, and he's still grinning that teeth-shattering grin. His mouth almost looks too big for his face. Even though I can't see his eyes because of the hat, I know that he's dead-ass staring at me. Then, without breaking eye contact, he starts jiggling the door handle pretty aggressively while still grinning. I silently thank God that I was so psychotic about making sure the front door was locked. He stops jiggling the handle and resumes staring at me. If I was in this situation now, I probably would have called the police immediately, but being only 14 and fairly new to babysitting, I was paralyzed with fear. I felt like if I took my eyes off of him for a second, when I looked back, he would be standing at the base of the stairs. After about another 5 minutes of the stare down, he literally starts walking backwards off their porch without breaking eye contact. Legit, this dude is walking backwards towards his car while still staring at me. I go into the parents' bedroom, which also has a view of the driveway, and kneel down in front of the window and peek out. I'm expecting to see this guy getting into his car. Nope. The guy is nowhere in sight, but the car is still there. So I return to my perch at the top of the stairs, half expecting to see him at the door again, or worse, standing at the bottom of the stairs. But he was nowhere to be seen. After about 20 minutes, I hear a car starting. I run back to the parents' room, kneel in front of the window again, and notice that the car in the driveway has started, and the guy is sitting in the driver's seat, still grinning. He also doesn't turn the headlights on. He shifts into reverse and begins slowly backing out of the driveway, grinning the entire time. Right before he drives off, he turns his head and, I swear to God, makes direct eye contact with me. Again, I can't see his eyes, but I know that he was looking at me. This is really disturbing to me, since he didn't really know where I was in the house. The parents' bedroom is the farthest window to the right if you're looking at the house from outside. The lights in the parents' bedroom are off, and I'm kneeling down, so really the only part of me that might potentially be visible is the top of my head, my eyes, and my nose. But it's also pitch black outside. He doesn't have his headlights on, and it's pitch black in the parents' bedroom, so I doubt that I was really visible. He also didn't spend time scanning the windows. His head literally just snapped to where I was. It's like he could sense where I was. After I had time to calm down and collect myself, I started replaying what had just happened and came to the following conclusions. This guy was not a pizza delivery guy. He had no uniform, looked and acted like he was possessed or something, and his car was unmarked. Those 20 minutes or so that elapsed between when he walked backwards off the front porch to when he got into the car were probably spent walking around the house, checking all of the doors, trying to gain entry. He had malicious intent. Maybe he wanted to rob the house. Maybe he wanted to do something more sinister to me or the kids. Either way, this guy was bad news, and I'm glad that I trusted the voice in my head. I think he probably found some pizza box and tried to pose as a pizza delivery guy to get me to open the door for him so that he could strike. There are still some parts of the story that are confusing to me. If he really wanted to get inside the house, why didn't he find a rock, a brick, etc., and throw it through a window? I mean, I'm very glad that he didn't, but I just thought it was a bit odd that he checked the doorknobs and then gave up after he discovered that they were all locked. Maybe he felt like doing something that made a lot of noise would alert me, and so he was trying to sneak in a more subtle way to catch me off guard. Why did he walk backwards off the porch? Was it just to preserve eye contact and thus intimidate me? Or was this dude just insane? Why did I feel so unsettled early on in the evening before the guy even showed up? Was he watching the house and waiting for the kids to go to bed and for me to be off guard before trying to get into the house? How did he know where to look when he was backing out of the driveway? Why was he grinning the entire time? Did he know that our house was the only house on the street that was inhabited at the time? Why did he pick that house, especially given the fact that it's on a very quiet and secluded street, and you have to drive pretty far back in the neighborhood to even reach the street? He could have picked the 50 or so other houses that you have to pass to even get to that house. The town where I live is upper middle class and has a super low crime rate, and drugs aren't really an issue. We're also surrounded by other similar upper middle class areas, so I'm doubtful that this person was on drugs or some crazy vagrant. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe this dude was just jacked up on drugs. Maybe he was just a vagrant dude. Maybe he really was just a lost pizza delivery man with some unsettling personal quirks, but I'm really doubtful. Whatever he was, I'm glad that I haven't seen him since, and that he never returned to that family's house, and that I had enough sense to triple check the front door being locked and listen to the voice in my head. Trust your gut, people. Also, let me know what you think was up with this guy. I never told my parents or the parents of the kids, which, as I said, was a stupid idea. I definitely should have told someone about it. If he really was watching their house, they needed to know about it. Creepy Mina here of the WorstNightmare channel. I hope you enjoyed those 3 stories of women's encounters with more creepers. Well, I'm very happy to announce I just checked my channel to get the title of the last video, and I have hit 200 subscribers. I am thrilled. So thanks to all of you who have subscribed to me. So, you know the drill? Please comment below. Have you ever had an experience such as any of these ladies? Or do you have an opinion about the pizza man, what that was all about? Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video on your favorite social networking platform, follow me on Twitter as WorstNightmare6 for advance notice of all uploaded videos, and please do remember to stay safe.